and the scene is set at Club Deep. The arrow says that the Elysium will now begin, and Alistair is currently waiting inside his club. Outside is a ghoul who is ready to take care of any person who arrives. The bright neon sign of Club Deep is now flaring, and outside the kine are walking slowly around the roads. Inside, the speed has gone down. Things have settled. Alistair have finally put everything in place. The ghouls are standing at their assigned spots, and the different brews and concoctions and small items are all ready. And as of now, the only thing that is missing from this Elysium is the prince and his guests.
John Stanhope's black Mercedes pulls within the car park of Club Deep. He exits, and two of the security detail provided to him by Mr. Crown also exit. They go to the boot of the trunk, lifting, with the two of them, with some concerted effort, a large suitcase. Place it upon the ground, and then wheel it behind John, around 4 steps. John, with his walking cane, limp towards the back entrance, striking the door with the hilt of the cane. A little perturbed that he is not being met.
At this loud bang at the back entrance, Alistair looks around and walks towards the door, and as he approaches, he opens it and sees the prince is in all his glory, and he quickly gets his bearings and good evening, my prince, and he bows. Welcome to the club for this Elysium.
Very good, Mr. Vestus. Please show us to where you wish us to hold court.
Indeed, come inside, and Alistair will gesture.
Carl will follow them in. He's obfuscated.
By the way, a ghoul is watching security cameras and would probably spot you.
I will make a stealth roll to avoid cameras.
All right.
I suspect I am seen.
Yeah, probably. Well, Alistair feels a slight ring in his pocket, but as the prince is currently standing and waiting, he will not answer it. And he will gesture for the prince to come with him and follow. In here, my prince, is where the Elysium and the court will be held. You can stand here on the stage in all its grandeur. It has been nicely decorated and looks a bit fancy.
Is there anywhere for me to sit down, Mr. Vestus? John says, tapping his metal leg. It does so tire me to stand all evening.
Yes, of course, my prince. Alistair goes to the door at the end of the stage, and he opens it and pulls out a nice wooden chair covered in fine leather, nice carvings, and he pulls it and puts it at the middle of the stage.
Thank you, Mr. Vestus. Once taking his seat, he waves his hand. The ghouls unzip the suitcase and produce the staked body of Poddy. Place the creature next to John on center stage. Poddy, for ease of travel, has had his arms and legs removed.
As the ghouls are putting Putty in place, Alistair will look at his phone, and he will see a message from the ghoul Saul, who has messaged him that another person entered with the prince, which Alistair did not greet. And Alistair will look a bit confused and look around, and he will look at the prince. My prince, not to be rude, but did someone follow you in?
I only brought the entourage you see before me.
Carl appears next to the prince's chair.
Is this the gentleman in which your security has caught, Mr. Vestus?
Yes, it is indeed.
Well, thank goodness for that. If he was an assassin, Mr. Vestus, I would be dead by now.
Yes. Hmm. Well, I hope we won't experience such a bad thing.
Carl
No.
just does a florid bow, and Carl Voltaire just service.
Mr. Voltaire, I think we have met at some point, but good evening to you. The next time you can use the front door if you so wish.
I thought it more surreptitious considering my form to appear at the back in one case.
Well, all right.
As he currently looks more like that.
I can understand why you said that. Then.
Still, it is very bad form to obfuscate your way into an Elysium, Mr. Voltaire.
In that case, please accept my humblest apologies. And he
Apology
turns
accepted.
to Alistair to make that not to Dante.
I accept your apology, Mr. Voltaire.
Well, gentlemen, let us begin. Let in the rabble, Mr. Vestus.
Indeed. And Alistair will go towards the front door and open the large doors and see who is standing there.
Apprentice Vestus, thank you for keeping me waiting. I trust our new prince is inside.
Ah, good evening, my regent. And Alistair will bow. Yes, indeed, the prince has just arrived.
Very
Come
well.
inside.
Following behind the regent, Marcus. Marcus follows.
And Alistair will bow again. Good evening, Primogen Broodmore.
Carl will step down off the stage before anybody else arrives.
The regent will make his way into the room, stand to the side, wait for the rest of the people at the doors to fill up before making any announcements or anything.
Marcus will go into the main hall or lobby where everyone is gathering and see what's particularly going on in here.
A cold wind enters the room as Juan Carlos puts off his jacket onto the little gate thing or whatever that the Tremere have.
There's a
And,
wardrobe. And a
there's
ghoul
what?
sitting at. There is a wardrobe and a ghoul sitting at it.
Ah, there you go. That's where I leave my jacket. And I didn't bring a gift this time. Anyway, I nod as if am I good to go in?
Yes. Good evening, sir. Welcome to this night's Elysium.
Gracias. And he proceeds to go in. He looks at the dance floor as he walks in and so beautiful. Qué bonito. And he tries to gather around with he doesn't know anyone in the room yet, but he looks for to see if anyone's gathered around already. Did the Regent and Broodmore already huddle close together?
I don't know about huddling close, but we'll be in the proximity of each other.
Okay, so Juan Carlos will immediately present himself to them. Ah, hola, hola, and walk up to them and present his hand. Mi nombre es Juan Carlos Feliz Espada de la Rosa.
Who are you handing your hand to?
Either person that takes it, I don't mind. He's very aloof.
Marcus just kind of looks at your hand as you give it to him, and he doesn't return the gesture.
Yeah, you're left hanging.
He looks down at his hand and disculpa, and puts it away and just bows instead. Who are you both?
Marcus Broodmore of the Tremere, and this is the Regent Brodianus of the Tremere.
Oh, he bows deeper than he did before, kind of a bit shameful. Disculpa, no sabía, I didn't know.
Ignorance can be excused this time.
Thank you.
Carlos, you said.
Sí, Carlos.
Very well.
You have a very fine establishment here. As he looks around and looks up at the walkway with the nice rails.
It is not quite to my tastes, but if you wish to pass on your praise, you may speak with Apprentice Vestus of our clan. He put together the construction of this venue.
Where he may be.
I believe he is helping host this evening. I'm sure you will have time to speak with him at some point.
Ah, muy bien, muy bien. And he kindly excuses himself from the two as he feels uncomfortable now with his actions, and continues to walk around and look at the rest of the building.
My character is so because it doesn't want to bother anybody.
Seem to be some delay over there.
Can you guys hear me at all? No.
Now we
Yep.
can.
We can.
It's a lot better now.
Yeah.
Yeah, my character is waiting outside, so he doesn't bother anybody, and he's waiting for his chance to present himself. So
The ghoul outside will ask if you expected inside.
yes, I am.
Well, he takes That is right answer. But to be sure, he calls Alistair, and Alistair will open the front doors again and look outside, and you will see an unknown person, and he will ask, "Good evening, sir. Are you here for the festivities?"
Yes, I am. I was called by John Stanhope to present myself.
Are indeed, of course. Come inside. And hand your coat to the school and any weaponry or any of that sort. Leave it here at the wardrobe and come inside. I am Alistair Vestus, the host of this evening.
Hi, I am Christopher. I am a new member of the Van Crew clan.
Well met, Christopher. And Alistair shuffles you inside, and well, you can join the large crowd of people.
I present myself to the premier present before I bow to the prince and then to the premier, and in jest of respect. And then I wait my turn to talk again.
Is there anyone else milling outside, Mr. Vestus, or can we continue?
Alistair will take a last peek outside to see if there is anyone missing.
Oh, yes,
Still
certainly.
waiting.
Certainly, although, well, this man appears to be missing, for you can see a weird skeletal creature, sort of a strange visage. Not, of course, masquerade breaking, but it appears to be a very creepy old man. You would recognize him, of course. I mean, this guy is a dime a dozen. Yes, as he does stumble a bit closer, he looks quite... drunk's not really the word, but he looks, well, like I said, lost, huh? Like the old senile man he is. You would recognize him, of course, as Isaac Milliner, the Dawn of the Giovanni families in New Sarum, and yada yada. Right now, he just looks like a confused old man, not sure whether this is the right address or not.
Ah, Mr. Milliner, good evening.
Hmm?
I take it you're here for the Elysium.
Actually, yeah, sure. He shrugs somewhat. You can see that this is... he just decides to go along with it. Is the prince in, or what?
Yes, I have a group of us have gathered inside already, and we are waiting for
It's
the
Johnny
last people.
boy in. It's Johnny in.
Yes, the prince is here.
Oh, of course. And he smiles, although warmly, and he immediately walks past you into the building proper.
Will you leave your coat and possible weapons at the wardrobe?
Well, no, of course not. No, he takes everything with him. He carries no walking stick this time. He's just in his well, pinstriped button suits. He gives nothing to any of the servants or no, nothing. He just straight line for the gathering hall, let's say.
Alistair will quickly intercept Mr. Milliner and ask him, Mr. Milliner, just to be sure, are you carrying any weaponry?
Oh no, of course not. I mean, you really think I can hide them? Look. And he spreads his arms right, and you can see, of course, especially when he's only wearing a thin buttoned shirt, he is very thin. He's very pale as well. You can see vaguely the outlining of his rib cage through his shirt, as he's basically spreading his arm wide and standing on his toes a little bit. So yeah, I have so little meat on my bones. I doubt I could hide them. But well, if you must search me, then be quick about it.
Alistair calls the ghoul from outside in to pat you down. And he doesn't find anything. Or
No, he doesn't, but he does find Isaac to be chuckling somewhat as the ghoul touched him. He, again, you would be familiar enough with Mr. Miller to know that he likes to make people uncomfortable, and, well, we better make make a ghoul uncomfortable than to give him the idea that he's turning Giovanni on in some weird way. But yes, the frisking gets done. No weaponry or anything other than that is found. He carries surprisingly little on his person, some spare change, and a little more than that, a napkin, a pen. I'm not sure if they consider the pen a weapon or not. Up to you.
well, Alistair sends the ghoul outside. Well, thank you for your patience, Mr. Milliner. It was just to be on the safe side.
No, of course, I understand. Well, lead me to the prince then.
Alistair just points to the dance floor where the other people are gathering, and there is a stage on which the prince is sitting.
Isaac follows your instructions to the letter and steps into the dance hall, seeing the small crowd of people in front of him, most of whom he doesn't recognize. He maybe scans through him a little bit, tries to take in all the details and anything suspicious, but eventually he just he appears content and he just seats himself.
And Alistair will once more look outside to see if anyone is waiting.
Not from the outside, but inside the security office. James makes his way inside of the Elysium as well. And as he's seen where the people are gathering, he makes his way to the dance floor. And seeing his regent and his primogen, he goes to them first and goes to his regent and takes a deep bow. My regent, good evening.
Apprentice, I trust everything is in order this evening for tonight's Elysium.
Yes, we are. I'm monitoring the security from over in the office to assist Apprentice Vestus.
Very well. I won't keep you from your duties.
And he will also make a bow to the primogen. Was just beside you. Was just beside him, right, Marcus?
Yeah, standing somewhere within the area.
As he approaches you as well, and also makes a deep bow. Good evening, my primogen.
Apprentice Schmidt. I hope you found what you were looking for last night.
Yes. James is thinking for a moment. Yes, indeed. Yes, a fascinating read. And as he joins the crowd on the dance floor, at the gathering.
And as Alistair sees there is no one outside, he will shut the doors and hurry to the stage. We are ready, my prince.
John nods and sees the assembled kindred quieten down, the murmur of conversation quietening. He grips down on the arms of the chair and pushes himself up. Grabs his cane to keep himself steady and stands in front of the assembled kindred. Good evening. For those of you that don't know, or those of you who recently arrived at the city, I am John Stanshope. It pleases me that so many of you have turned up this evening. Many of your faces were missing during my first Elysium, and it is good to hear that word travels fast. For those of you who were unaware or do not keep up with the news of our community, there have been many problems and difficulties facing each and every one of us, and this court has not been blind to the suffering of our subjects. First, let it be known to all kindred here that Apollo of Corinth, Priscus of the Sabbat, is under the auspices of a blood hunt. Any kindred seen to be aiding Apollo of Corinth will also be under subject of a blood hunt. also, in the light of trying to rebuild our great city to the golden era it once was, the court will be re-established. Our power structure will be returned. I ask each of you to help me in this great endeavor. For too long, incompetent or idle princes have allowed us to slip and become a shadow of what we once were. Those days are now over. In this, you will notice that many of the court positions have now been filled. The Seneschal is Ramsay Brody Innes. The Sheriff is Terasius Cole. Harpies have been elected. Soon hounds will follow. And upon the next Elysium in 2 weeks, each of the Primogen and selected guests will pay a tithe of their resources for the use of the court. This trust will be used and can be petitioned for its use by any member of this city in good standing with the court. John looks towards the bloody torso next to him. There has also been much talk on this plague bearer that has infected our city. This particular problem is very close to my heart, and it will please all of you to know that this court has not been sitting idle. In little over a week, we have found one of the perpetrators. I'd like to thank each of you for your patience in this regard. My restriction on feeding was a harsh measure, and you have shown the self-control and diligence and patience only expected from true members of the Camarilla. I, as a merciful prince, understand the sacrifices you have made to follow my letter, and I will give thee that trust in return. The downtown area will now be considered a rack, a free domain to feed. However, all other districts in the city that are not your personal domain shall still maintain the feeding restriction. If the spike of this HIV breakout drops when the next Elysium takes place, I will lift the feeding ban entirely. I beg each of you to be a bit more patient and allow us to conquer this. If you are afraid or suspect that you or one of your clanmates may be infected, I urge you to go to one of my free clinics or to come to me directly and have yourself tested. Know that if you discover that you carry this virus and you come willingly to the court, I will show clemency and take your honesty into account. He looks over to the Nosferatu Primogen. Mr. Poddy of the Nosferatu is a plague bearer, but that is not his crime. His crime is for when he was confronted about the possibility of this, he wished to run. His own selfish desire to spread disease amongst our kind, our food, our wards, put each and every one of you in danger. And for that there is only one punishment. Mr. Poddy, The prince stares at the outburst of the Toreador.
Muerte.
If Mr. De Rosa would let me finish.
He bows.
Mr. Poddy will be stripped of all titles and status within the Camarilla, and meet final death here now. A vial of his blood will be given to the Nosferatu clan, for transparency, to see that this court will not hide themselves under ruses or manipulation. The Camarilla is here for the benefit of all kindred kind. Since Mr. De Rosa was so kind enough to volunteer his services, and John calls Mr. De Rosa up to the stage.
As honored as he is, he immediately goes up on stage.
Mr. Vestus, could you please provide the execution tool to Mr. De Rosa?
Alistair hurriedly enters another room and comes out again now with a large item. It is sheathed, and he slowly brings it to the prince here, and he presents it.
John takes it, inspects it, and then hands it hilt first towards Mr. De Rosa.
He kneels before you in order to receive it. Gracias, mi príncipe. And he takes it. I'm assuming it's a sword, right? You unsheath the sword?
It is a steel sword. And
okay, awesome.
Yeah.
For the sake of the scene, I'm not going to go ahead and roll since it's just dramatic stuff, but I'm going to go ahead and look towards Potty and again nodding to my prince and then looking at the rest of you.
John will take out a handkerchief and put it over his mouth.
Para la camarilla! As he swings down as hard as he can and decapitates Potty, and ash fills the table.
Thank you, Mr. De Rosa.
Para nada. He bows again deeply, filled with excitement for letting the prince, for letting him do that for the prince, and quickly steps off the stage to give him back his spotlight.
Please return the blade to Mr. Vestus, Mr. De Rosa.
And he hands it back as he steps off. I forgot, sorry.
And Alistair takes the weapon and hurriedly places it where he took it.
Feeding within this city, under such dire circumstances, is only permitted within your personal havens, the downtown district, and the Elysiums. Recognized Elysiums of this court are the Black Orchid in Uptown. The keeper of Elysium will be Lachlan Lacklasees. The Looking Glass Cabaret on the waterfront. The keeper of that Elysium is recognized as Calliope Tavalaris. The Cellar Bar of the Warrens. The keeper of that Elysium is recognized as Virginia Lucas. And Club Deep, in which Hallows Halls in which we sit and enjoy our Elysium now. The keeper of Elysium is recognized by Mr. Alistair Vestus. I will hear presentations from the assembled cast here before us.
Malcolm will head towards the stage. My prince, congratulations on your ascension. As it is now your right to dictate who may remain in your domain, allow me to present myself. My name is Malcolm Brodie Innes of Clan Tremere, and I humbly request you allow me to remain within this fair city.
Regent Brodie Innes, you have always been a stalwart member of the Camarilla, and always willing to aid your fellow kindred in times of crisis. It would be an honor to have you stay within my city.
Very well. Now I have matters to attend to. I shall not be staying long. Perhaps a short visit to downtown before I return to the Chantry.
Thank you.
Do feel free to stop by and discuss how this evening goes. I would like to appraise my apprentices on their performance this evening.
It would be my honor to be your guest within your humble haven, Regent Brodie Innes, and I look forward to our conversation therein. There is much we must discuss over the future of this city.
We can discuss. He looks around. More pleasing decorum.
The prince nods ahead and allows you to be dismissed.
The regent takes his leave, casts a quick eye over the two young apprentices and the new Primogen, just giving them a stern look, essentially.
Before the regent makes his leave, Marcus takes a bow.
Alistair will also take a bow.
And on the way out, as he passes James, James will also make a bow. Good evening, my regent.
Be sure everything goes without a hitch. At that, the regent takes his leave from the club and heads back onto the night.
Marcus approaches the prince next. Upon arriving to his seat, he kneels and bows his head. Marcus Broodmore of Clan Tremere, newly appointed Primogen. I come to you on this night to present myself so that I remain in this city and fulfill my clan's duties.
Welcome, Mr. Broodmore. Apologies, Primogen Broodmore. Congratulations on your promotion.
Thank you, my prince.
You have been absent for the city for a little time. What have you been doing with yourself, Mr. Broodmore?
Investigation following the abomination that had happened at the Eagle quite some time. It piqued my interest.
Did you discover anything, Mr. Broodmore?
Through my investigation, it was a slight failure, as finding the source of this abomination seemed to be quite a task outside of what I could find within the Camarilla.
Well, your previous service as a sheriff makes you an exemplary member of the Camarilla, Mr. Broodmore.
I do my best to uphold the traditions, my prince.
Yes, a man of your talent is certainly welcome within my city, Mr. Broodmore. What is it that you plan to do now that you are Primogen of your clan?
I would suspect gaining a bigger clutch on these downfalls that we had been so accustomed to these past few months. Several princes in my short time. The passing of both Joshua Deep and Rev Aronson. Putting these anarchs in their place would also be a duty that I would much rather see too. Been hearing nothing but ill keeps from these miscreants.
It is good to hear that you are so invested in the future of the city. We have suffered great losses. Wise and noble kindred have fallen, but it is placed on our shoulders to lift the city back up to where it should be. I will be relying on you heavily in the days to come, I am sure, Mr. Broodmore.
I wish to serve my prince.
Then please, feel welcome and enjoy yourself. I'm sure even the Tremere are allowed one day off a week.
Thank you, my prince. Marcus stands and bows and heads back to the corner where he was standing originally.
Who is next to them present themselves, step forward.
Hello, Prince. My name is Christopher Julius Rock III, and I am here to assist you in everything you need doing the city.
Ah yes, greetings, noble cousin. It does fill my heart with joy to see you travel across the ocean and onto these shores. Tell me, did you bring me adequate paperwork? You must
Yes,
apologize. With the Sabbat always at our door, suspicion is always high within this city.
Yes, I brought everything you need to know is in this paper, so right here. And he hands down the papers to you.
John takes a few minutes to look through. You can tell that he's enjoying making the noble-blooded Ventru wait a little bit longer than etiquette allows, being from such a prestigious line as he is. Well, Mr. Rock, tell me, why is it that you have come to my city?
I don't really know the city that well right now, but as you said before, I am here to help you restore the golden age it was before. So anything anybody needs doing, I am here to help.
And what is your field of expertise, Mr. Rock?
I would like to say etiquette, but it's mostly muscles.
A soldier? There is always room for loyal soldiers of the Camarilla within this city, Mr. Rock. I would recommend that you speak with Mr. Cole of Clan Gangrel, the sheriff of this town. Or if you wish to catch up with some of your peers, Lard Brehon is the Ventru Harpy, who will be able to get you situated quite well. Unless there is anything you require to be set up, Mr. Rock.
I only need to know the limits of my territory. But other than that, I am yours as a servant.
Yes.
Carl takes a step forward. Maybe I could be of assistance and repay back a favour, my prince, and customize our latest edition. The city and its various sites and locations.
Very generous offer, Mr. Voltaire. Sure, Mr. Rock will appreciate the offer. Mr. Rock, be aware that currently I still reside as the Ventru Primogen until the Directorate elects another. So if you do require anything, please send something to my office. But I look forward to seeing what you do with our fair city.
It's a pleasure to be here. And thank you, Mr. Carl, for the help.
He snaps to attention and hands you a business card with Death Head Investigations and a telephone number on it. Please call me and I will show you the sights of our fair city.
Thank you very much.
Well, I hope to be able to speak to you in due time, Mr. Rock. I have so missed the court of London. I would like to keep up on the gossip. But alas, I have other petitioners here. Maybe another evening.
Okay. It will be a pleasure of mine to help you. He bows and goes back to his place.
Fair evening to you, Mr. Rock. Who is next to present themselves? Come, come, don't be shy.
And it is just that little bit of motivation, of course, that the very insecure old man needs to, with what appears to be much effort, raise himself from his seat, a very comfortable leather chair that he has been sitting upon for the last however long his prince been prattling on. He hasn't really been paying too much attention, old man. But frankly, he does move to the forefront of the court, of course. So who doesn't like a bit of attention, or melodrama for that matter? And standing in front of the throne of the prince, he takes a very elegant bow, showing a bit of that good old Giovanni etiquette. And he addresses, stands up. Good evening, my prince.
Good evening, Mr. Milliner. How can I help you, then?
Oh well, I merely wish to inform you of some various tidbits that have been happening in the city. Although I'm sure that, of course, oh, you do not need the likes of the Giovanni to inform you of that. No, no, no. I must admit that I've taken up, well, let's say, a casual interest with the business at the asylum. I, of course, understand that such as the likes of yourself would have your head spinning about, of course, as you only hear about the asylum and this and that and the terror attack that happened, what was it now, about 2 weeks ago. So please, I do apologize if I, well, may bore you with this topic, but I think it is quite important nonetheless.
The asylum is a concern for us all, Mr. Milliner. I'm surprised many of your family haven't come crawling out of the dark spaces looking for succor sooner. But,
Oh.
tell me what the most well-informed family of New Sound can reveal over this particular incident.
Well, I'm not sure what the Stanso family can reveal, my prince, but I must admit that the Giovanni, of course, has been, well, let's say, our interest lay in other matters. The asylum, although, as I said, a casual interest, wasn't among our priorities. But perhaps it should have been, for I have personally done some investigation, although I cannot claim all credit for myself. Many of my findings have been, well, brought to my attention by certain, well, let's say friends of mine, one among whom was Party.
Tell me what the most well-informed family. Well, don't leave us all in suspense, Mr. Milliner.
Oh, of course. I merely thought that the court of all these people would enjoy a bit of melodrama, but perhaps I met the wrong crowd. Who knows? But yes, it appears that with my various well, friends, of course, and family, I have made a certain discovery. As you know, of course, there was a terror attack on the 11th of September this year on the St. Boniface Asylum. It's quite a shame, really. And many good, honest citizens of this town died due to, well, the media reports were a, well, let's say, a highly trained paramilitary team who brought more explosive content to the asylum. Obviously, we thought this was a bit, well, too well executed, of course. Although we didn't rule out the possibility of this simply being mortal affairs, we must admit that, of course, this city has seen quite some, let's say, kindred interference from various sects throughout the year. It's quite crazy in retrospect, really. So, my prince, I have it on very good authority, or at least the little bird tried his best to convince me that it is somehow, well, the Camarilla had a stake in the attack on the St. Boniface Asylum. Though I cannot, well, really share my own suspicions, I thought it may be best to inform you that there is talk going around, even reaching independents such as myself, that the Camarilla is well, suspected of being involved in this to some degree, although I can't really say how much.
Fascinating, Mr. Milliner. So, where is the useful information? I'm sorry, I drifted off for a second there. Has your family digged up anything useful?
Well, we have heard some rumors as to what the source of the trouble in the asylum may be. One of them being, well, they sound more like borderline conspiracy theories, but I humor you all the less. One of them was a, what do they call it, a Methuselah.
A Methuselah? John says with mock surprise. Good Lord!
From Jacob's corner, you can hear surprised, "You don't say."
Mr.
Jacob.
Milliner, I think that, as always, the Giovanni are always 5 steps behind.
Oh, of course, my prince, of course. After all, we don't have such fancy legs to keep us going.
Oh, damn!
So, he says, leaning forward menacingly, "Are you here to help with the problem because you fear for your own life? Or are you here simply to state the obvious, Mr. Milliner, in the hope to seem superior? Because neither seems to be working."
I am, well, very confident that I will be able to maintain my state of existence without or with help of Camarilla, so you shouldn't worry about my health, my prince. Although you flatter me, of course, as always. It's what you venture to do. As for trying to appear superior to the likes of you by giving you, well, what I now know is publicly acknowledged information, no, of course not. Truth be told, I merely, well, I'll be truthful. I wish to confront you with the suspicion that the Camarilla have been involved in the terror attack on September 11th regarding the the Boniface Asylum. My suspicions have been somewhat affirmed, although I can't say I'm too happy about how this conversation went. But no, of course, my prince, of course. Like every Giovanni that has been in this city for the years you've allowed, well, your office has allowed us here, We have always helped your sect without quarrel, without question, and without asking anything in return. I am merely beginning to wonder if this long strain of, well, unreturned favors is a very good long-term opportunity, because, of course, like all things, be it water, electricity, or sometimes even blood, people all too often assume that what they can get with the flick of a wrist or the snap of a finger should not be appreciated or should not be acknowledged where it comes from. So I'll leave you with this, of course. Yes, the Giovanni families of Lucerne will help the Camarilla in any and all affairs, if you always have and you always will do. But I do suggest that you become a bit more grateful, of course, in these trying times, for, as I understand, the Camarilla do not have many allies, and it would be such a shame if an age-old promise was broken due to the missteps of a very young new prince.
Well, Mr. Milliner, I will take your words to heart. It is true that your family have been welcome here for little under a year, I think, due to the auspices of Abraham Wolfe, the traitor of the Camarilla. And I am sure I will find the numerous boons in which you have given the Camarilla eventually. They must be quite deep. I haven't found any, or at least they're not public knowledge. Your work is no doubt exceedingly good. I have always heard that the Giovanni are masters of the masquerade, and any move they do within the Jihad is always swept under the carpet, cleanly away from mortal eyes, and it is simply my lack of experience, as you have pointed out, that means I cannot see any benefit that the Giovanni has caused to the city.
That is where you're wrong, my prince. As of course, the promise that you are, perhaps unsurprisingly, rather oblivious to, dictates that Giovanni shall not interfere with the jihad at all, for we have no interest to. So no, actually yes, my prince, it is somehow your fault that you cannot witness our moves in the jihad, because we do not make them. I'll leave you with these thoughts, and I bid you and the rest of the court a very good evening, and I do hope that you will consider my words with utmost clarity and grace, of course. I do mean it from the bottom of my black brambled heart when I do say that we, as always, would like to remain independent and neutral, which means that we will not turn a deaf ear to those who reasonably wish to do business. But I think, well, seeing the times behind us, the many untold and relentless favors being granted to your sect may be a thing of the past, but it's frankly up to you, my prince. He smiles again, and he bows once more.
Well, a good evening, Mr. Milliner. I look forward to our continued relationship, and allow the trust between our sects to grow from this very interesting starting point.
He bows once more, and without a final word, he leaves the dance room.
Does anyone else wish to present themselves after that dramatic display?
Jacob Crowley will make his way forwards before the prince. He will take a bow with his usual flourish.
Mr. Crowley, please stand. Imogen Crowley, I should say. Respect where respect is due. How are you keeping these nights?
Thank you, my prince. The knights have found me somewhat concerned with the recent events that, if not already, everyone is well aware of by this point, as well as some personal matters that I feel will be quickly resolved.
Yes, these matters do concern the court and to all kindred. We have capable men and women of the community on it. Unless you have any keen insights, Mr. Crowley, that I am unaware of?
I don't believe I have anything to add to the matter at current, but thanks to a few words from one of your cousins, I may have something interesting for you within, say, 4 nights.
Excellent, Mr. Crowley. I do appreciate kindred with plans and deadlines. You have never been... Well, let's just say I've always respected you, Mr. Crowley. I could never quite figure you out. But I always assumed, like a spring or a great hunting cat, that although you may loof around when something takes your fancy, you do indeed spring for it.
I do whatever needs doing, but I know my place amongst others. If I didn't, I would not be able to keep this position particularly long, as past history in this city has made rather obvious.
Very true. Tell me, Mr. Crowley, what are your plans for your plan in the coming nights with the rejuvenation project of the city? Where do you feel your clan will fit in, and what do you believe that you will be suited for to gain responsibility of?
While there are a number of entertainment facilities that many kindred have established here, I believe that those who have recently come to the city have a unique opportunity to spread into more somewhat diverse arts. It is through those arts I hope that they will find the bright seeds from the kind, and in time bring them from their average days into something more spectacular and useful to our fellow kindred.
Well, I look forward to their process, Mr. Crowley. And I do look forward to your presentation on the next Elysium. I was wondering, seeing that he looks towards the pile of blood, Nosferatu will be a little indisposed. Would the Toreador be gracious enough to play host to the next Elysium in 2 weeks?
Jacob pauses for just a moment, but his smile widens. I think that those are accommodations that can certainly be put forwards, my prince.
The prince smiles. Excellent. I believe the city has been short of Toreador salons in the last few months. I think it is time to enjoy ourselves and revel in the organization of the Camarilla in the only spectacular style the Toreador can provide.
I'll be certain that we put our best talents to work and have all of our fanciest legs on the dance floor, as it were.
The prince's smile drops at that comment. Thank you, Mr. Crowley.
He takes a bow, steps back, keeps his smile well in place.
Juan Carlos steps forward right after his primogen and bows deeply as he goes by him, waits for him to pass, and then continues to go towards the prince.
Ah, my loyal blade. Please step forward, Mr. DeRosa.
He has a very, very gleeful smile at that and bows again deeply at him. Thank you for the opportunity.
How is it that I can assist you this evening, Mr. De Rosa?
Mi príncipe, our last conversation, due to my excitement, I forgot to ask, what do you know of the man that is being blood hunted? Apollo, as he widens his eyes.
Such delicate information is best discussed with our keen investigative minds, Mr. De Rosa. I would recommend that you speak to the sheriff, Mr. Cole, and John thinks back with his eidetic memory, perhaps Mr. Broodmore, who I believe was sheriff when first sightings of the Priscus were made. Is that correct, Mr. Broodmore?
I have some detailed reports on this this offender that has been rifling through the city.
He looks back at that and then looks back to the prince and smiles. Muy bien. I shall speak to Mr. Broodmore and Sheriff Cole. Is he here? As he looks around the room behind him.
Mr. Cole's domain is within Washington Park, Mr. De Rosa.
Ah,
I'm sure you'll be able to get hold of him. If not, then speak to one of the harpies. I believe I can see Mr. Brehon in the corner there. He'll be able to get you in contact with who you need to speak to.
learning a lot today. Gracias, Príncipe. I know I am far too new to receive any acclaim status as of yet, but I shall prove myself. Para la camarilla, as he bows again and steps back.
You bring me the form of Apollo, and my God, ha! You will do very well for yourself, Mr. De Rosa. Very well indeed.
He goes back and gets into the crowd and brings aside Broodmore first, since he knows about Apollo, and obviously we'll do this later, but go ahead.
I will be accompanying Juan, as he's actually very interested in details on Apollo himself.
Who is next to present themselves? If you are speaking, Mr. Mortimer, you have to speak up. I'm afraid Mr. Vestas has turned on his blasted club music.
Terribly sorry about that, sir.
What
As
is
Mortimer
love?
will approach.
Main in character. Right. Mr. Fitzgerald, please.
As Mortimer will approach the prince and do his usual bow of respect. Good evening, my prince. You must apologize, or I must apologize for my lateness to this meeting. I'm still getting used to navigating around the city.
It was quite all right, Mr. Fitzgerald. The Elysium will be going on for quite a while yet. I hope you'll take the time to enjoy yourself and gather the stories in which you have so much interest. How is it that I can help you this evening?
It is more of a matter of how I can help you. I have some news to report of the mission you assigned me with.
Oh, really? Please,
yes.
you tell.
Well, it took me a while, but I think I found a very highly susceptible mortal that we can manipulate in the media.
Well
Have
done.
you heard of one Walter Anderson?
I cannot say that I'm familiar with the gentleman.
I was unfamiliar too until a couple of nights ago. Apparently he is new from, not exactly sure where, but the story going around is that he was once on a prominent news station and he ended up being demoted, which means that he is highly bitter and more than likely willing to do anything in order to gain a semblance of his normal lifestyle. Just the kind of mortal that we can use.
Excellent. Mr. Fitzgerald, there's nothing that pleases me more than progress, and competent kindred being assigned a task and doing it in quick order. I will trust your acquisition of this Mr. Anderson.
Oh, of course, my friends.
But if there's anything you require from the court, do not hesitate to ask. This is a rather large priority.
Let me think. I might need the assistance of one of your noble clan, or perhaps another Toreador when approaching this Mr. Anderson. While I have had success in the past, my habit of spooking mortals if I'm around them too long might get in the way of accomplishing this mission. I think that it might be good to have backup for this proceeding. Might I suggest acquiring the assistance of Laird Brehon for this assignment?
As long as Mr. Brehon agrees and it does not divert his time too much to his other assignments, then you certainly may.
Excellent.
But of course, he smiles wickedly. Favors for kindred are usually never for free.
That is understandable, my prince. I'm quite familiar with debts to be paid, as he smiles. But enough about that. This is a lovely Elysium so far. I am a little curious, though. Shall we be partaking in the tradition of sharing stories like last time? That was quite the highlight of the evening.
Perhaps if we have time, Mr. Fitzgerald. At the moment, court business and the running of the city must take precedence.
Oh, of course, sir. In that case, as he'll bow again, I shall occupy your time no longer.
Excellent. Please, when you make progress, send me a report or come and see me at my domain. I do like to hear success stories.
Excellent. I will certainly. As he'll bow again, and then exit the stage.
Who is left to present themselves?
Laird steps forward and bows his head respectfully. My prince.
Mr. Brehon, please come forward. How is it that I can help the Harpy of the Ventry this evening?
Actually, sir, the primary reason why I'm here is I would like to call a meeting of the Harpies, though not every clan has elected the Harpies, their own Harpies, I should say, as of yet. So I respectfully ask that maybe at the next Elysium, you would have the other clans who have not yet selected make their selections, so that we can do about our business expeditiously.
Which clan have been tardy with electing a Harpy, Mr. Brehon?
The Toreador have yet to nominate a Harpy, and the Nosferatu have yet to nominate.
Stitches is the nominated for Harpy.
When last I spoke to Mr. Stitches, I had heard that he had been offered both the position of being possibly the Harpy for Clan Nosferatu and possibly a Hound. I'd also heard... Oh, I'm sorry.
I will suggest most strongly to him that he serves as Harpy. That's much more within his area of expertise.
Thank you, Mr. Voltaire. We haven't met before, but I've heard of your reputation. The only thing I'd ask then is that you maybe take the time to talk to Mr. Cole about this, since Mr. Stitches had relayed to me that he did not want to disappoint him.
The other clans of Toreador and Nosferatu have but a week to issue a harpy. If they fail to do so, the harpies will elect amongst themselves the master of harpies, with their clans being absent.
Go ahead. I nudge at my primogen, and I eyebrow over at Ben, or rather, not Ben, Mortimer. Whoops, there we go.
All Jacob does is lift a hand and let it drop,
Yeah.
as if to just wave to Juan Carlos and say, "Yes, I know."
Does that suit your needs, Mr. Brehon?
Perfectly, sir, and I won't take up any more of your time this evening. Unless there's anything you require of me.
I believe you are kept quite busy, Mr. Brehon, so I will not trouble you with further tasks as of yet.
Well, you know where to find me. He smiles, and he inclines his head even deeper, this time with much respect, before turning to go.
Mr. Braham, before you go, it would be useful for us to know each other. I haven't really had the time or the chance. And he passes a business card to you.
Laird looks excited at the business card. He can't help himself. He smiles a little bit, and then he pulls out one of his own to hand to you, very quickly, almost effortlessly, and he says, "Certainly, I look forward to it." And then again, he inclines his head to the prince and to Carl this time, though he bows deeper to the prince, obviously, and then he walks off.
Well then, I believe we have got that out of the way. I will return to presentations in a few hours. Now, Mr. Vestus, I believe it's time for me to enjoy my Elysium. The prince smiles wickedly.
Would you forgive me if I excuse myself, my prince? Our clan seems to be all of a sudden lacking a primogen.
You may do as you wish. This is a free Elysium. You have presented yourself, Mr. Voltaire. Enjoy yourself if you must, or go about your business. It is up to you. Mr. Vestus?
Before he leaves, he hands a business card to Jacob Crowley and Marcus Broadmoor, and bids them both good night.
And with that, the prince stands and heads towards one of the private rooms to get away from his subjects for a moment. And we'll end the scene there.